can already tell this is going to be long, but I will try not to make it so. This is going to be about how I've been delivered by God from all kinds of unholy and rotten spirits. And I do mean literally delivered from spirits, and also just a life of sin. But I didn't know it was sin. I didn't think it was bad any part of my life. I thought I was good in some ways. I thought I was good. I'm obviously driving, but I'll be careful. I'm just going home. I'm almost 30 years old now, and for at least 12 years, ever since I hit adolescence, I've struggled with a few things, and up until this point, those things have been varying negative perceptions. They've been, I've had a spirit of unworthiness, of worthlessness possess me most of my life. Self-harm and cutting, promiscuity, degradation, basically no value for myself, a child of God. I never saw myself that way, but growing up, of course, my mom did tell me that I was a child of God, and I think that's what saved me. It saved me enough to get saved by my Savior. She and my dad and all of my family prayed for us our whole lives and taught us the Bible, and they told us about God. I really took for granted the upbringing and the childhood that I had, because after age 7 or 9, I stopped caring. It's not that I hated God or didn't like church. I just didn't care. I thought it did not apply or was not relevant. It didn't matter. Subconsciously I thought these things. And eventually I did grow up. I left the house as soon as I could, for no reason other than I just wanted to be independent and free from under my parents' thumb, because I was very sheltered. My mom did not let us watch certain movies or listen to certain things. I still was exposed to the world in other ways, and I had no discernment. I didn't understand why it was bad. But I did hear my mom's voice, and I stayed away from horror movies mostly and things like that, because you can't unsee things she would say. So in adolescence, as soon as I got those urges, as a young woman or a teenager, I started to act on them. And I mean as soon as I could. I remember being 15 and being in a park in my car with a boy from my class who wasn't even my boyfriend. I was in a very low place because my boyfriend, my first boyfriend, broke up with me since I would not put out. So I was low and probably needed validation, and I did things with one of his friends. It hurt him. I was happy for that. I also was indifferent at that point. It had been a while. But the point is, at a very young age, I was doing things that demonstrated a lack of self-respect, because I had never built that up. And the reasons behind that, Daughters comes to mind by John Mayer. That's all I'll say. And I love my dad. I love you, Dad. I just didn't think twice. I acted on those things. I had many boyfriends. The thing I thought was okay was I could do these things as long as they were my boyfriend, and I was committed, and I wasn't cheating. So I did whatever I wanted. I had sex at 16. I would sneak out. Not really sneak out. I would just stay out longer. I wouldn't lie. But I knew that lying by omission was lying. My parents told me that, and I still did it anyway. I omitted a lot. So that was my whole youth, basically, was boyfriends and trying to find validation and love. And I was about 19, living alone with a group of friends. Not alone, but I was living independently, and I had a boyfriend who lived with us. We all lived together. Eventually it became just the two of us, and he was tormented. I look back now, realize how tormented he was, and we were. We fought, and he cheated on me endlessly, was searching all kinds of things on the internet, things that are very, very popular now that were not popular 12 years ago. I was hurt, broken. I remember one day I wanted to end it all. I almost did. I called my parents to say goodbye. He had just pushed me against a wall, and next thing I know, my parents are there with my younger brother. They picked me up. I never saw that guy again. I never went back to the house. I never got my stuff. I lost so many valuable possessions, but I walked out with my life, and I believe that was a miracle. I remember sleeping all day, laying with my mom all day, sleeping. She just held me. And I didn't know how I could get that low, how things could get that dark, but they were bad. And after that, I moved alone to my own place. I was smoking a lot of pot. I would drink occasionally. I would get drunk, but I wouldn't. Man, this video could just go on. I was doing things I shouldn't have done to my body. I was abusing my body with substances. I wasn't just getting high. I wasn't just having a drink. I was numbing myself and going to other places. There was a time in my life when I didn't know if I was dreaming or awake because I was always high. I forgot my sister's birthday one year. I asked, "What are you doing?" And they were out. It was her birthday, and I tried to play it cool, but I had no idea. I missed it, and I had such a sobering slap in the face moment that day. I'll never forget that. I cried to this day thinking about that, and I know it was just a mistake, but I feel so guilty. That didn't stop me from smoking, so I was still depressed and doing those drugs. It's weed, yeah, it's just a plant, and you can't overdose, but you can go to bad places. One time when I lived with those friends, we threw a party. I don't remember the party at all, because before the party, someone came over that they couldn't stay, so he just offered to smoke us out, and he brought a gas mask. He brought a bunch of different pipes and bongs, but gas mask was my first time ever getting stoned. I had tried it, but at that point I'd never been high enough to be gone. And I don't know if it was synthetic weed or if it was regular weed, but Yeah, I remember going to pitch black, like a fisheye lens. I was completely out of my body, looking down at myself in the bathroom, and it was just closing in the blackness. I was staring in the mirror trying to get a grip. I couldn't talk. I could not focus. I could look down and move and see people in the kitchen. I could see the party. It was real time. I was there and I was conscious and sentient, but I could not talk or do anything. I was terrified. And eventually my boyfriend came in and found me and just said my name a million times. We said my name a million times, and I came to, and then I don't remember the party. I don't know what that was about. I really don't, even now. So the point is, I was abusing my body because I was trying to escape my life. I was trying to escape reality. I was not grateful or happy at all. I didn't want to be present. And that, I don't know why. I guess now I do, because I hated myself. I was believing in a big old lie that I was not good and not worthy of anything. So that boyfriend that I lived with in the house, he cheated on me, and eventually I cheated on him because I knew he didn't care. And I cheated on him, ironically, with my very first boyfriend ever. So if that tells you anything, that tells you what I was really searching for in my heart. I needed comfort. I needed love. I was searching for something familiar that I could hold on to and lock on to, and that would hold me back. And we didn't even have sex. We didn't even do anything. I remember going to his house like when we were little kids, and laying in bed, and he played video games, and I just wanted to feel warmth. I just wanted to feel special to someone. I just wanted to be loved. And my parents didn't know what was going on at this time. Of course they didn't. And that's one of my biggest regrets, because they could have been such a support for me, and they were. I was down on myself about school because I dropped out. I felt like I couldn't do it. I felt like there was no point. What a waste of money. What a waste of time. I felt stupid. I always felt stupid. Like I couldn't even learn, and everyone else is so much smarter than me, and school's just not for me. I eventually did go to school, and I'm proud to say I have 2 degrees. They are associates, but I got them at the same time, and I was pregnant with my firstborn, so I'm very proud of that. So I dropped out. I rationalized, it costs too much money, and education should be free. All that nonsense. Not that that's nonsense, but my way of thinking was nonsensical. So I lived alone after I was 19 or so, drinking and doing drugs. I tried cocaine with one of my good friends. I've only done that a handful of times in my life, and it didn't do anything for me. Like, it worked. I just mean I didn't have any kind of affinity for it. It was just like being on coffee, like the worst you've ever felt from coffee, like that for hours. So I wasn't a fan of it. I was just reckless. I was just reckless with my body and with my time. They say the idle time is the devil's playtime. My mom would tell me that, and it's absolutely true, because I had no goals, no forward-facing ambition. I had nothing pulling me up to keep my eyes ahead of me. I had nothing. I was always looking down. I was always looking down. I worked a job as a night server at like a bar, like a entertainment like a one of those family places, but it was like they had bowling and stuff, but it was designed in a way to appeal to nighttime. So we were open till 3 a.m. We opened at 4. Families could come and stuff, of course, but it was marketed as like a night club. But, you know, for bowling and arcade games and just, you know, you just come and have a good time. You get drunk. So lots of kids would come through. It didn't have to be bad. It wasn't necessarily bad, but it was fostering an environment of unhealthy behavior. I was getting high before work, during work, after work, of course. This is the time I didn't know if I was dreaming or not, if I was awake. I had a wonderful boyfriend at this time who was so sweet and so kind to me. And I stayed with him. We were together for 2 years. And it wasn't very serious because we never talked about a family or anything like that. I think we both were just placating each other. And we were each other's comfort because we were very good friends first. And it was just full of love, but it didn't have any kind of spark, fire, you know, like that romance, that like undying, like yearning. There wasn't that. And eventually I realized I wanted a family. He told me he didn't want a family. And that was it. I wish him the best. And I'm grateful for our time together because a hallmark moment of my life is when I realized that he loved me and helped me before we were together see the value of myself and helped me love myself just for being me. I never thought I was cool. I never thought I was special or funny, but he thought I was great, and it felt so amazing. I never wanted to let it go, and I don't regret it, but it was not a time of growth at all. It was, if anything, just, I feel like those 2 years we were together, you could erase them, at least talking about like actions and goals and, you know, progress and in character and all that. Like, I didn't do much in that time except get high and go to work. There's nothing wrong with that, but I was trying to escape something deep within me. I was trying to escape myself, I realize now. And all this time, I would cut myself. I would cut myself all the time. I cut myself until we got together and he pinky promised me, made me promise I wouldn't do it anymore. It started when I was about 12 or so, 13. Because I realized that I was never going to look like those girls on TV. Because they're not real people. They're not real girls. No one can look like that. It's not, that my clothes didn't fit. I thought I was fat. I thought I was hideous. I was trying to hurt myself, and there was twofold the reasons why I cut myself. I was trying to create a pain I could control, because I felt an overwhelming pain deep in my soul every day. And also because I was trying to harm this body. I was mad at this body. I was so angry. I hated this body. I wanted it to bleed. I thought I deserved it. And now I see how wrong I was. I've birthed 2 beautiful children, and I'm a strong woman. I am so proud to be a woman the way God made me, and to be able to do these things, and to have the intuition and the nurturing nature that I have, and I wish someone had told me what a blessing it is to be me and to be a woman, and how special and what a gift that is, because I didn't know. I followed the TV and the magazines and all of that, and I bought into lies. And I hated myself because I was not fitting an image, a false image of idols, false idols. I cut myself. I starved myself. I made myself throw up regularly. And I was never skinny enough. I just made myself sick. I did that my whole adolescent life until I was about 21 years old, 20 years old. I promised I wouldn't do it. After I was with that boyfriend, I got with the man who is my son, my firstborn's father. Not a lot of love there, but there was a lot of the passion, yearning, It was just lust, probably, but not even enough of that. It was just something other than what I had for 2 years. It was something a little warmer than the tepid waters that I had been treading. So I jumped in head first. And he was not in a healthy place. We were attracted to each other because neither of us were in a healthy place. We did not value ourselves. We did not have self-esteem. So that's a match made in hell, basically. But we did decide we wanted a son, we wanted a baby. That was one thing we just decided and wanted and agreed on. And I remember I became vegan. My whole life changed when I became pregnant. I saw new light, potential, beauty in life again. My baby came and I realized how I could take care of him, and it was my duty and no one else would. I fed him the best foods. I took care of my body so I could take care of him. I really took care of my body, at least the best way I thought I was. I juiced all the time. We had smoothies every day. He still loves smoothie time. But the relationship was not good and it fell apart. It blew up. There was no infidelity, nothing traditional, but there was a darkness, there was a cloud that was suffocating me and us. There was violence. It was never anything terribly bad, but the fact that it came up was bad enough. There were at least 2 incidents, and the second one, thankfully, I had the sense to leave. I had gotten advice from my boss at the time. The best advice, she said, just leave. I was just mentally tormented. I was in pain and agony every day. I felt like I was living with demons. Now I can say that looking back, because those demons were of the mind. They were the opposite of love. That's all that matters. I remember there was one night that I was just so hysterical. We were fighting or he was yelling. I fell to the floor. I was so overwhelmed. I fell to the floor on my face. And I couldn't move. And I was laying there. I must have laid there for an hour. He slammed the door thinking I was just playing around or being dramatic. I couldn't even talk. I could not ask him for help or anyone. I would have begged him to help me. I would have taken his help, but I could not talk. I don't even remember getting up. Eventually, I went to bed. We split up about 3 years ago. And everything is okay because we both have a common respect in raising our son, which I'm very grateful for. I remember that night I did cut myself. Now that I'm thinking, I do remember cutting myself that night for the first time in years, probably 4 years at that point, or almost 5. And then I was alone. I lived with family. I worked a lot. I worked very hard. I took care of myself and my son. And I finally did some inner work. I decided that I was going to love me. Because if no one else was around, I was stuck with me. And never at one point did I think I should turn to God. Hey, what about God? Hey, what about this God that I was taught about my whole life? It never crossed my mind, and I'm so ashamed to say this, but it's the truth. And my degree's in biology and psychology. I studied science. I love science. I still love science. I don't love all of science, modern science, but I love science. I love learning about things and understanding how things work. That's my thing, is like, I need to understand why. I was always asking why as a kid. So I found a lot of spirituality through science, ironically, because I studied neurology a lot. That's fascinating for me. One of my favorite parts, the whole thing with me, is the intersect between psychology and our biology, so our physical and the mental realms where they meet, where our nourishment affects our brain patterns, all of that. So I studied neurology a lot. I followed Dr. Dispenza, Joe Dispenza, Dr. Wayne Dyer. Listened to a lot of Abraham Hicks teachings, and I knew a lot of what they were saying was ridiculous, but a lot of it was true. It is true that if you meditate, ask and it'll be given. Abraham Hicks says that. Ask and it'll be given. A lot of these people talk about Jesus. They talk about the power of the spoken word, and belief. Dr. Dispenza has a book called The Placebo Effect, and it's all about the phenomena of placebos and what happens when our mind really believes something. So that is called faith. And I'm not going to knock it. I'm not going to knock all of it, because it really helped me. And I know it helps a lot of people open their hearts, because my heart was closed for so long. I opened it to the possibilities of positivity, change, transformation, love, and light. That's what a lot of these guides and spiritual teachers preach, is love and light. And that's right. But it's very self-focused and centered on the man and the self and the I. There's a lot of power to be said for believing in yourself, and you can be empowered. Absolutely. I was, and I saw change in myself. But I even said things like, I don't like the idea of God or Jesus, because I don't like anything that takes away power from oneself or responsibility from oneself. I don't like externalizing power. I said that constantly. I really think it came from a good place, but it was so misguided, because I can't do this. I can make a human. Sure, I can pop one out, but I don't understand. And I've studied the intricacies of synapses and arteries. I've looked and peeked inside. I still could not fathom what it takes to keep a heart beating, or to make a baby have the instinct to nurse immediately with mom, and I don't understand that. I could never create all of this. I can't make a tree. I can nurture a tree and take care of it. I can variegate a plant, but I'm not a creator. I'm empowered to create and give life as a woman, but I am not sovereign. I'm not divine. Not in the way that God is. So I was very misguided. Had good intentions, but I still felt a gaping hole in myself. And I focused on myself and I loved myself. This video is gonna be long. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to do a part 2. Because now we're getting into hell. So here's part 2. I don't think I can make this quick, but I will be as concise as I can. After I started to do a lot of self-reflecting and self-loving, I met my fiance through a crazy circumstance. It's honestly a miracle that we found each other the way we did. I was originally going out with his brother, and it wasn't even like that. He took me out and talked to me. He noticed me, and I felt so special. I felt beautiful. I felt seen. It was just a random day at the office. I was alone, and he was doing some work. He was a contractor. I just had to be present for the work at the building. And anyway, he noticed me. We went out one time, and then he basically handed me to his brother, and it was very sweet. He's my brother. I consider him my brother now. And there's not a day that I'm not grateful that he noticed me. So while I met my fiance and his brother, I had already been doing my own thing, right? I was living alone with my son, and I had kind of fallen back into old ways with people from my past that I worked with when we were serving. We were going out late, doing drugs. I did shrooms. I did coke again. We were drinking, of course, smoking. I didn't think anything about these things. I did not think twice. I didn't know what I was doing was wrong. I didn't think it anyway. Not consciously. So, here I go again, right? Looking so hard for validation and someone to love me. I committed adultery with an old friend. I was punished. I learned about the penalty of error in my body from the beginning of the year. We were doing things we shouldn't have been doing. We had an accident, right? Because it wasn't intentional. And I got pregnant. There was never a moment when we considered keeping the baby. One day, he knew I didn't love him. And I knew that he felt something for me, and I kind of took advantage of that. Because like I said, I just wanted someone to love me back. To love me, I wanted to feel that familiar love in my heart. But I didn't want to be with him. I never did. And he knew that. And he was suicidal one day. He left town, turned off his phone. I told him I was pregnant. I was not going to tell him. But that seemed to be the only thing that could bring him back to reality. And he came back, but we both agreed we were not keeping the baby. The baby. I was 6 weeks. We went to a clinic. I was past TF out. I don't remember anything. It was a very nice nurse who talked to me and pushed me out on a wheelchair. He cried and cried, saying that he hated what he did to me and what we did and what he saw me go through, because I was basically unconscious. I couldn't move. He drove me and had to stay with me at home. I was out of it, drugged up, who knows what they did. All I knew was they took out my baby. They took care of the problem for me. And I felt guilt because I thought maybe that was a baby. But everything I had learned and been told said it was not a baby. It was just tissue. But you can bet your butt, when I had my daughter at 6 weeks, I was listening to that heartbeat and oh my gosh, I felt so sick. I felt grateful, but I felt so sick thinking of what I did, and I felt guilty. And that's kind of when it all unraveled. I went on a date. I started dating my honey. We were talking a lot. He came over for dinner. I was making dinner for us one night, and I had to tell him. I told him I'm pregnant. And this is what's going to happen. And he never left my side. He knew the situation. It was very ugly. Not because of him or his reaction or anything. It was because of the situation I had created for myself with this other person. So we dated for a long time. We've been together about 2 years now. We dated for a while. And he, immediately bonded with my son. Everything's great. His dad is a preacher. His dad and his stepmom have a church, and they live out in the country, and they do deliverances for people on Skype, and they do devotionals. They do lives every morning or every weekend, and they're just lights, right? Well, my fiance had expressed many times that he feels like he cannot relate to his dad anymore because his dad is like a new person. His dad used to like certain music, and they would bond over it, and he doesn't anymore. He also told me a few things about his dad's past that lets me know his dad is in a better place now because of the faith that he's found, and that's undisputed. We all know that, and no one, would say otherwise. This is just backstory, so we've both kind of shared this view on God, where I said God is, everything in everything. Like, he's energy. It's not a person. It's not some guy in the sky. He's not our dad, sky daddy. Like, I used to mock God, and I realized I was mocking him, and I didn't even know. And I'm so sorry. I never would do that again. But I didn't believe it. Not in the sense that he was the creator of life and the giver of life. I thought God was in my heart. Like my mom told me, God's in your heart. And I just thought that meant life, I definitely believed in the supernatural realm, and spirituality was not foreign to me. But God to me was just energy. residing in matter, basically. They say in science that when you die, you lose mass, and that's probably your soul. Like, science literally tells us that. They say, science only goes so far and then comes God. And that's basically where I operate, or operated. So we kind of shared that view. And he told me about how he was a Christian once, and he studied the book and really believed, but he doesn't anymore because someone's at my door. Because if God is perfect, then how could sin have come from something that God made? And that's a whole other thing. We're already that's something that we are working on together. We have a lot of unbelief to process, but he has an understanding of God much deeper than I do, or ever did. I had learned the stories, but I didn't read it. I never believed it. I never believed any of it. I never lost faith because I never had faith. Okay, I'm gonna try and wrap this up. I'm sorry for all of the edits and the cuts. I had to nurse and stuff. I went to get coffee, and so I had to bring it upstairs. I didn't intend to film a video, and I was taking a while with this coffee, so apologies. I think I left off talking about God as a construct in my mind and that of my fiance's. So like I said, we kind of talked and agreed. I can't speak for him now, but we agreed that God was, within everything, synonymous with life and energy. That God was energy. Possibly sentient, but not necessarily so. Now, I have always known and believed in a spiritual realm, like the supernatural. I don't know how he feels or what he believes regarding that. In the past, he has told me that he believes in, I guess, in materialism. Those aren't his words. That's the only way I know how to describe it, because he told me that he believes this is it, basically, and this is heaven, basically. Again, these are my words. I'm just trying to sum it up. Like, once you're dead, you're in the ground, basically. My mom passed away almost a year ago, and it got me really, really contemplating. Still didn't really turn to God or anything like that, but I did think about her energy, her love, and her life, and her memory, and how many lives she touched, because just believe me, it was in the dozens. And I don't mean people knew her, I mean people loved her. I was just blessed and fortunate enough to be her child, be her natural born, but she loved so many children and families. So he comforted me a lot through this and told me things like, she's always with you, she's still here. He would say things like, she can see you now. We conceived our baby right around that time. I was able to tell my mom. She didn't know. I don't know if she knew what I was saying, but I told her the baby's name. I told her the plans. We were gonna get married, like right then and there, and then make the baby, but it didn't feel right to go through with the plans. But we still ended up making our baby, with love and intent this time. And it was just completely different. And I have felt this reverence for life. And all the while, he's telling me that my mom is still here and my mom lives on. And I felt like, what does that mean? How? How can she be gone? I sobbed for days. I lost it. sometimes the only thing that would anchor me and tether me was the love between my fiance and I. But it didn't feel like before, where it was rooted in inadequacy or a search for validation. It was just comfort and truth, because I didn't even know if I believed what he was saying. I could not wrap my mind around death. I never have been able to. It's a very, very uncomfortable for me to think about, especially my mom. But I knew he was saying the truth, because I'm here and I embody things that I learned from her, and her memory is vivid, not just in my mind, but in others. So it kind of got me thinking, not about God, but just about life and the cycle of life and the afterlife. And he shared a song with me. I don't remember much, but I remember it mentions a dying mother and a newborn baby. And we joke about, we said that they must have high-fived on the way out, because I wanted a son. I just, not specifically or like really intently, but I just wanted a son. And I felt like my mom was like, nope, kind of nudged my daughter ahead or something. He would say things like that to me, and it kind of got me thinking about the realm that we cannot touch, the unseen, the unknown. And this is also something that's discussed in spiritual teachings and science rooted, wooble jooble, wobble wobble, whatever that, it's nonsense, The things we can't explain that we are trying to currently explain with science, some of it can be, but after that, it's like leaving off. You can't. And that plagued me, because I need to know things. I need to be able to explain them and understand them. And I couldn't. I have felt a lot of sadness since my mom died, and I felt depressed. I had a very, very difficult pregnancy. I was sick literally every day until she came out of me. I was able to do it naturally without medication. It was not bad or traumatizing. I was afraid at first, but I learned. We took a class, and my husband coached childbirth. So my partner was there for me, and he coached me, and I've really come to lean on him. He's everything that a man should be, in my opinion. He's a provider, and he's a rock, and he's strength when I don't have any. And I feel like we just complement each other. So that was a blessing, but the road leading up to it was very hard, very hard. I had to change my diet. I became very humbled. I had to listen to my body and fight all the dogma that I had been fed and that I had perpetuated for years about veganism and all this stuff. And I'm not going to get into it, but I did not have the nutrients that I needed to carry my child. I almost couldn't carry my child. But I fixed it. We fixed it. And she's healthy and perfect. And we look at her, and what a marvel. I see her. I saw her that day. I thought, how is this possible? How did she know to turn her head and come out? How did we work in sync? How did I give birth to her? Like, what is that? What is this life? What is this? How did we do this from nothing? It was one moment. We were in bed together. We talked. And then 10 months later, here's a human person alive, growing. So these are the things that were in my mind and have been on my mind for months, But this is not a fan video for my family or my daughter. So fast forward. I I was doing some things online that seemed innocent enough to me. They were towing the line. Literally, I got involved in I don't even know how to explain this. Lewd pictures, pornography. I ended up in that realm, and I won't say it was unfamiliar at this age or this point in my life. I had not been around that virtually for years and years and years, but remember, when I was younger, I was immersed in my own urges and my lusts and desires, and I had taken pictures of myself, inappropriate pictures, as a young woman, as a woman, for boyfriends. I had posted them online anonymously before. They did not really stay up long. I deleted them, but I did it. I even had tinkered with the idea of having a sugar daddy at one point, and it was all rooted in money at that point. But also it felt like there was something in me that just wanted to be seen. I just wanted to be seen. I wanted my body to be seen and worshipped almost. That was when I was living in the house. I was 19. And those pictures stayed on my laptop. I remember eventually my dad had possession of that laptop, and I just pray that he did not see his daughter in that position. It wasn't a lot, and it didn't last long online, but I did it. So it was something that I was kind of familiar with. And at one point, I thought of a great way to make money. It was innocent, right? I was going to just post pictures of my feet, because people like feet, apparently. People like all kinds of things. If you can think of it, someone fetishizes it. And as I said, it seemed innocent, right? Like I could dip my toes in and really not have to show myself. I wasn't interested in showing my body, not like when I was younger and desperate and in a hole of darkness. So I tried it out for a little bit, and I would get messages and stuff, and I knew what people were doing, but I told myself it's no big deal and it's okay because it's just my feet and I'm not, engaging, or I just knew that people paid for that. And I actually no money was ever exchanged, because this did not last long. I will tell you why. I got to a point, I think I was some social media. I was on some platform, no holds bar. It was just all out there. And because of the algorithm and because of the people who were in my DMs, certain content would be suggested to me, and I began scrolling, and I mean, it was filthy. I was immersed in filth. There's no other way to say it, and I'm not going to dwell on this point. That's it. Succinct enough, way to describe it. So there were two reasons why I stopped the feet thing. One, I felt like I was exploiting people. The people that I talked to, people that messaged me, were regular people who genuinely, most of them, genuinely think women's feet are cute, hot, sexy, whatever. And they're attracted to what they're attracted to. I'm not even going to get into the neuroscience of that, but I could. So I realized I was exploiting that in people, and that felt wrong. I couldn't go on with that. I felt guilty. And the second reason is because of some of the things I saw online. It wasn't anything like on the dark web. It wasn't that bad. Not that I don't know what's on the dark web. Some of it anyway. I don't go there or anything like that. I just mean some of the attractions that people have are inexplainable. They are quite literally inverse of probably what would be considered natural for a man or a woman, for anybody. Inverse. As in, I don't just mean, like a man being attracted to a man, or a man being attracted to, someone like getting off on a threesome or sharing their wife, things like that. It wasn't even that. It was quite literally, I don't want to say it because I'll just say that it was the same type of thing that is very popular now that did not used to be popular about 10 years ago. It was lies. I found lies. I saw people lusting after false images. The feelings that I got from roaming about these accounts, and as I scrolled and read, I realized a lot of people were conflicted, torn up about their attractions. Some embraced it, but I will just say this: they were lusting after false images. It was a lie. I can't even bring myself to say the hashtags that I saw. But suffice to say, up is down, down is up. It was Orwellian, double speak or double think, backwards, good is bad, right is wrong. There's no other way to say it. I'm not trying to, it's not like I'm just trying to be gentle about this topic. I'm defining it exactly as it is. Lies and completely wrong. Wrong as in, I don't mean morally wrong. I mean false. It's like if I were to hold up a black piece of paper and say, this is white, or this is green, or this paper this paper is not what it is. Like, this paper is metal. It was literally lies. And I was so traumatized not by the images themselves, but definitely by the images, but by the reactions and the immersion I felt. I was in the world. I was in the seediest part of that little niche, and I realized how many people wanted to be deceived. That's what it came down to. They wanted to be deceived. Please hear what I'm saying, because I'm saying it exactly as I mean it. They wanted to be deceived. They didn't want to be attracted to something unusual or uncommon. They wanted to be deceived. That was the whole, that was the get. It was the fact that it was deception was what they were. That was the thing for them. That was it. And I deleted my account, all that, got off of it. I have not downloaded the app again. I have not been on it. I know it's still there. I'm not, I don't have my head buried in the sand, but I didn't want to see that anymore, and I could not understand, I could not fathom why people want to be deceived. So it led me on this wild goose chase, if you will, for why do people want to be deceived? How did we get to this point? Why do men want to be deceived by what they're looking at? I can't even tell you how I got. So that darkness that I roamed into, a reverse engineered faith. I only found light because of that darkness that I went into, and because of the darkness I knew in my life growing up. So I started researching a very unusual topic. I came to find a lot of theories and explanations, and not many people talking about this. I'm not going to get into that detail. I eventually landed on an account that talked about deception en masse, in the media, all kinds of, it wasn't your typical conspiracy theory stuff. It was just like, hey, your entire perception might be false. Like, you might be believing things on a foundational level that just aren't true. And that's why people are so comfortable being deceived and come to want to be deceived. And not only did this person talk about it, but she brought up God and explained it and framed it in a way that positioned God as truth and lies as Satan. And that was something that resonated with me, because my mom told me growing up, I would say, oh, my hair is not good. Oh, I'm fat. No, that's a lie from the devil. She would always say that to me. Excuse me, that's a lie. She would say, nope, that's just a lie from the devil. Those are lies. She said, who told you that? Where did you hear that? Did you think of that? No, that came from the devil. And that's what I heard about the devil. So I was fascinated by someone who identified truth or associated it with God. God is good, she said. God is truth. God made life. It has a design. Like intelligent design. Lies are not from God. This seems so basic, but bear with me. I was lost. And it all clicked. So many things made sense. All the darkness. It was like turning on a light in like a room where there might be bugs crawling around. You turn on the light and they scatter. Everything in the media, everything around me in my life had a light shining on it. I still didn't feel what it was. I didn't feel it as God, but I thought, that's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. I can see through things, and I've always kind of questioned things and been open to, I don't ever accept anything at face value. That's just who I am. But this was different. This was like night and day. I can see through things. It's easy. That's a lie. That's a lie from the devil. Some of the biggest lies are so ingrained in us that we don't question them. We don't. So I started to wonder if that's so obviously true versus false. Is it really God versus Satan? I remembered when I told my fiance about deleting the accounts. Pretty much the only thing I said to him was, I know the devil must be real because I saw him. When I was scrolling through certain images and seeing things, I felt a presence right here, like right in my face. That it was like a hot breath. And I shut it off and I told him, I know the devil must be real. I saw him. Evil, wrong. It was just wrong. Because if the devil is lies, and I saw nothing but lies, then I saw it. And it made me wonder about Satan and Jesus. And he knows the story. So one day I asked him, can you tell me the story of Jesus? We were driving on a long trip and he told me that don't grade me. People were living in sin. They had to live by these rules. And it was very hard for them to honor these rules because we're just blotted with sin. It's impossible for us to be perfect. So God sent his son. He sent someone to be perfect and walk the line perfectly and embodied perfection and goodness and truth. And that he made the ultimate sacrifice. And that his perfect blood made up for all of the sin and the dirt in the world. Took the burden off of us. And I cried. And I said, that's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I didn't know if it was true. But what an act of love. That's what I thought. How amazing. I thought of all the martyrs and all the stories that I've heard in different lore and different characters that have kind of been like Jesus and sacrificed themselves for others, taken on burdens, and I just felt something. So I've kind of continued looking for truth. I can feel now that the Lord had been softening my heart Because I didn't think of God anymore as just simple energy. I thought maybe he made everything. Maybe there was a purpose. I thought about the dynamic of my fiance and myself, and how easy and natural it was for us to come together, and when we wanted to make the baby, and she's here, and it seemed like the purpose. It seemed like the meaning of life was life and love. And I remembered, go forth and multiply, be fruitful. So just looking at my daughter was the number one factor in my search for the meaning and design of life. It made so much sense. We complement each other, you know? He must have made us. He must have some plan. This must, of course. Nothing else fits like this fits, you know? So I marvel at my daughter. I consider our dynamic a miracle. There's no other way to describe it. It's a miracle of life. And what a blessing, because I know the value now of human life and a baby. So this is already going to be an hour long. I'm so sorry, but thank you if you've watched. There were some times when I thought about the things that I saw and the darkness around me, and I fell to my knees. This was the first time I talked to God. I apologized on everyone's behalf, and I said, please forgive us. Please forgive us. So much sin and putridness is all around. Not that there's no good or light, but I was on my knees in the shower, and I apologized. And there was another time I remember I talked to him. I apologized for something else. So slowly but surely I started to reflect on my life and my actions, moment to moment, but also big picture. I realized things that I had done that were not honoring my body or honoring God, who gave life and created us with a purpose and design. I wrote them down. I repented. I didn't even know I was repenting. I felt just this ache in my heart. And as soon as I apologized, I felt so much better. It felt like those things were forgotten. I can remember them and conjure up the memory like I have today, but it feels like a different person did those things, and it feels like almost like they didn't happen at all. I don't know how to describe it. It just feels like they were buried, or like rubbed out, like scrubbed away. One night, I remember having this dream all night long, but it was so short. It was probably just, I guess, like in our time, it would be about 3 minutes long. I just received something. It wasn't like a dream where I saw things and felt things and did things. I just received this message, this like knowledge. I came to realize all of the horrible things I had done to my body. I had allowed myself to be sodomized. I was an adulteress. I spat on human life. I aborted a baby. I had unclean behavior. I was promiscuous with my body. I did not honor my temple. I cut myself. But it was mostly centered around the sexual immorality. I just woke up with a clarity, and I realized all those things were sin. I never thought those things were sin. I never thought they were bad. I wouldn't have done them if I thought they were bad. I just honestly did not even consider that, which is terrible. So I have so much more compassion for people who are maybe misguided or just in the dark, because they're not probably trying to slap God in the face. Not that we could, but you know what I mean. And I woke up. I wrote down. I wrote it all down. And I wrote down the penalty of error in my body. I faced a very unique burden. I had a hard pregnancy. I struggled with breastfeeding. When with my son, it was the most natural thing ever. We did it for over 2 years. I struggled with basic nutrition. And I was just so humbled and so grateful for my body and for my life and my daughter. And I cannot describe this in any other way, but I felt like coming out of a well with a hatch, and it was opened. And it wasn't like I felt a beam of light on my face. It was so much more than that. It was like coming out of a bunker, and immediately you feel everything around you, and it's life, and it's bright, and you're awake. I finally came out of the hole. And I said sorry, and I was sorry. I didn't just say sorry. I realized that stuff was sin, and I had been living in it. And I recognized the unique consequences on my own body. And I felt it was fair. I don't think I deserve half of what I've been given. I don't deserve any of this, but I have it. I've been given it. I'm almost done. So that was recently, and like I said, my heart has been opening up. And all my anxieties, I used to have panic attacks, anxiety attacks. I would still smoke just to get out of my own head because I would have horrible thoughts. Like I wouldn't even feel high. I would get high to feel normal because I had such serious depression after my mom died, and the pain of being pregnant, postpartum, crazy anxieties, like waking up terrified, heart racing. I'm a bad mom, things like that, lies. So over the past, in that time, it was about 4 days since I had really thought about God and talked to him and apologized. It really felt like I had been underneath a rolling train, and it stopped and the tracks disappeared. Like it felt like I had been underneath it for so long, going and going and going. And it was gone. It didn't just stop. I didn't get up. It was over. I never felt lighter. I never felt happier. I felt peaceful. I didn't want to touch anything that would change my mindset or alter my state of mind. And that didn't even happen consciously. I just didn't want to touch any of it. I didn't want to smoke or, So it doesn't matter, but the stuff I used for anxiety was a little different than weed, but it's similar. It's not as it's a little bit different. Anyway, does not matter. I didn't want it anymore. I didn't need it. And then when I realized that had been 4 or 5 days, I didn't need it. And I thought, well, that's good. I haven't had anxiety. So I recognized certain moments when I would break down. Normally, here it comes. I'm going to go into a crying fit. Or I'm going to, fall down at the thoughts of not being good enough or not being a good mom or being a worthless person. Lies. And of course I told my fiance this, and he thought, well, that's great. Have you been praying? And no, I still don't really know how to pray. I do talk to God, but I'm not good at it, I don't think. But I remember they said, if you have faith even as big as the grain mustard seed, that he can use you. So I just keep that in the back of my mind, and I tell myself that he'll believe in me and he'll still hear me. So my whole demeanor changed internally completely. 1,000 million triple bajillion% different. Peaceful. I have felt troubled for most of my life. I got a Bible from a family member. I still haven't opened it, but I've been reading verses on certain themes and topics, and I watched a sermon that one of my family members sent me, and I watched a bunch of testimonials. I that's what I would spend my free time doing. I would just watch videos of people talking about how they got saved. And I thought, well, maybe I can be saved. And not that long ago, I was reading some literature that came with my Bible. It didn't come with it, it was given to me. Something very short. It was called The New Birth, and it perfectly described what I experienced. It was like I was changed. I didn't associate with things of the world. I didn't want to. It's not like I am consciously turning from certain parts of the world, but I have no desire for certain